Hello, my name is Andy, and I am the village idiot, and I'm armed with a car and a GoPro, and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. Here we are again in the district of West Lindsey in Lincolnshire, and much like Fulnetby that you will have seen last week, this is another very small place. It's going to be another very short video. Unlike Fulnetby though, this one has a little bit more in the way of habitation. There are actually some houses here and there's no deserted medieval settlements. Or are there? We'll soon find out. Welcome to Snelland. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Snelland is a village and civil parish in the West Lindsey district of Lincolnshire, situated approximately 9 miles northeast of the city of Lincoln. It's also about 5 miles from the town of Market Raisin. The civil parish includes the hamlet of Swinthorpe. The population at the 2011 census was included in the civil parish of Freesthorpe. It's 5.1 square kilometres in size, but there's no other demographic information for this one. For an average house out here, you'd be looking at £190,000. The parish church is a Grade 2 listed building built of limestone and dedicated to All Saints. Dating from the 13th and 14th centuries, it was restored and largely rebuilt in 1863 by Edward Browning of Stamford. All Saints is known as the place where lightning split the dead, and there's backstory to that, as you might expect. It revolves around the headstone of the wife of a former rector, cracked into 2 pieces as though it's been snapped by giant hands. It's the grave of Mrs. Peel, who died in 1873. It's been struck by lightning some years after her death, splitting the stone dramatically into 2. No other graves nearby are affected, but hers, despite the damage, has remained upright and has been a local curiosity for decades. By all means visit this lovely church, but you might want to avoid it if there's any thunderstorms. This is what Snelland is close to. All the locations you can see on this sign are fellow civil parishes and will have their own episodes. They're also all within West Lindsey, with the exception of Ragby. Here's the parish notice board on what you'd perhaps term the main junction in the centre of the village. Let's have a bit of history next. Snelland is listed in the Domesday Book of 1086 as Snelleslunt, with 7 households. The name Snelland is from Old Scandinavian, indicating the Vikings were present in this area. It's a contracted form of Snaller and Lunder, which means Snaller's Grove. Kelly's 1900 Directory of Lincolnshire places Snelland, perhaps erroneously, in the East Lindsey district of the county. Running through the village is a stream, most likely just a drainage ditch. In 1841, 2 bridges were constructed to cross this channel. Where the other bridge is, I don't know, but the main one crosses it here, right in the centre of the village. There used to be a school, built here in 1842 by Lord Brownlow. It was rebuilt in 1879. It sits close to the boundary with Wickenby, and Wickenby's children also attended it. In truth, Snelland is not noted for a lot, but it does have some connections with the railway network. Running right through the village is part of the former Sheffield and Lincolnshire Extension Railway. Snelland railway station opened in the village on that line in 1848, and it closed in 1965. The Sheffield and Lincolnshire Extension Railway was promoted by the Sheffield and Lincoln Junction Railway to provide a link between Sheffield and Grimsby via Lincoln. This section of the line joins the Market Raisin branch line and opened between Lincoln and Market Raisin in December 1848. On the other side of the crossing is a small collection of properties. I'd describe this as the main part of the village, and it truly is just residential. Snelland has no shops or any kind of amenities. The nearest place for those would be Scothan, a village we'll see soon on the channel. My route was to take me back over the railway line towards the other side of the village again. As I was walking back, the barriers of the crossing came down. Now, as a kid, whenever a freight train passed a crossing we were waiting at, my dad would always like to count the number of wagons it had. If there are any kids watching this today, see if you can clock how many are on this train. You can walk along this footpath which joins two of the main roads through Snelland together. The rest of the village is pretty much just some more farms and buildings dotted around them, none of them really noteworthy apart from being typical of the rural properties you'd find in this part of Lincolnshire. I found this delightful pond out here too, and the internet doesn't seem to have much in the way of information about it. Mind you, does it really need any? This is the kind of spot I'd happily sit and spend a few hours on this bench, wasting the day away. In all honesty, I found Snelland to be that kind of place. Sure, it's busy with farm vehicles from time to time, but mostly it's quiet. If you want an escape from urban life, even from cities as close by as Lincoln, it's really not that hard to find. So I really haven't spoken much to the camera in this episode. To be fair, the reason for that has been because I've just been enjoying the sights and sounds of Snelland and all the countryside that's around it. I think when you're in that sort of position, you think to yourself, there's not really much point telling people about what they can see when they can see it for themselves. It's a beautiful place, beautiful part of West Lindsey. Now, at the beginning of this video, I mentioned there might be a deserted medieval settlement. Well, there isn't one here in Snelland, but there is one in Swinthorpe, which is just to the north of Snelland. And now we're going to go find Swinthorpe and see if we can find that deserted medieval settlement. This is the nearby Swinthorpe, a small hamlet to the north and west of Snelland. This is very much another agricultural area. Swinthorpe is the location of yet another deserted medieval village in this part of Lincolnshire. We're certainly racking those up, aren't we? Swinthorpe is listed as Sownthorpe in the Domesday Book. At that time it had 3 households, and there aren't many more than that here now. There is evidence that a Cistercian grange existed at Swinthorpe attached to Kirkstead Abbey. The grants to Kirkstead Abbey and the resultant reorganisation provide a 12th century context for the initial development. A local man told me whilst I was here that the remains of the old Swinthorpe settlement are to the south of the existing one. It lies somewhere across this field between it and Reesby on a sandy bank laid out in back-to-back tofts served by an external box of streets. Okay, that's it for the parish of Snelland. There's no picture bit today because this one is quite small, doesn't really warrant one, but there is a Strava map and you'll see that at the end of this video. Now I'm going to hop into the car and drive down to my next one through a place called Reesby towards Stainton by Langworth, and you'll see that next week in the West Lindsey series. But for now, this has been the parish of Snelland, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.